Imagine being just 9 years old, and in an instant, your entire world is engulfed in flames.
I got burned on January 17th. Should have died that day. Barely made it into the evening, and by the late hours, my door opens up. Jack Buck walks in, sits down next to me. I never met him before live. And then he speaks this light into my darkness. My eyes are swollen shut. And Jack says, "Kid, wake up. Wake up. You are going to live."
This is Contagious Influencers of America. I'm David Sams. One spark, one explosion, and suddenly everything changed. That was the reality for John O'Leary in 1987. You see, as a little boy, he was burned on 100% of his body and given less than a 1% chance to survive. But we know how big God is. Through faith, the love of his family, and the encouragement of a community that refused to give up on him, John didn't just survive. He rose from the ashes with a story that has inspired millions around the world ever since. Now his miraculous story is coming to the big screen in a powerful new film, Soul on Fire, exclusively in theaters October the 10th. It stars Joel Courtney, known for his breakout role in J.J. Abrams' Super 8, the global hit The Kissing Booth on Netflix, and Jesus Revolution from the Erwin Brothers and Lionsgate. Now you can get your tickets today at soulonfiremovie.com. Today, Joel joins us to share what it's like to step into John's shoes and bring that remarkable story, that true story, to life. And John himself is right here with us as well to talk to us behind the scenes, not just of the movie, but the miracle that continues to touch hearts and change lives even today. This is a conversation about courage, healing, and the unstoppable power of hope. But first, here's a look at the movie Soul on Fire in theaters October the 10th.
Come on, John, stay with me. Wake up!
Coming through.
How bad is it?
He has burns to 100% of his body.
Want to send out a special hello tonight to a certain young man who's laid up in the hospital. His name is John O'Leary. He's a tough little guy.
Boy, you listen to me. You will walk again.
When I first came to see you, they said you had no chance. But here you are. You're gonna face challenges when you get out of here, but you can still do almost anything.
Do you like to dance, Beth?
No, but I will.
Who is that guy? John O'Leary. He's kind of a legend around here.
Why didn't you ask me out the night we met?
Figured you wouldn't want me to.
Welcome to the first project of O'Leary and Bride's Construction. Yeah, everybody grab a hard hat.
Ladies first?
No. Why would a man who can't hold a hammer choose to be a contractor?
I guess I like to just see houses for what they can be, not what they are.
I have a scout troop, and I heard about what happened to you. I just thought that my girls might be inspired if you came and talked to them.
Oh, wow. I may have an idea for a way that we could work together.
Public speaking? I hope you got better at it.
I know what it feels like to think you've probably thrown your life away. To move through the adversities of life, we must have a reason to thrive that is bigger than all the challenges that we face.
If you focus exactly on loving the life that you're living right now, and not the life that you think you could have had or should have had, that's the whole deal right there.
Everything that you did, why me?
Seemed like you needed it.
You built a good life out of ashes. Remarkable.
The most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire.
Hey, gentlemen, welcome. How y'all doing?
Well, thank you, David.
Great to see you, David.
It's been a few weeks since we saw one another at the screening, the initial screening of the film, and we're getting a little bit closer to the big premiere. How you both handling it? Are you a little nervous or what?
How are you doing, John?
I know Joel's terrified, but I've seen the film. Joel's saving it until the great premiere, and he hasn't seen how incredible the film is. Once he does, he'll recognize that he's got nothing to be nervous about. He's incredible. The story's remarkable, and it reminds people that in spite of what they face, their best days are in front of them. So, dude, we're fired up.
I'm super excited for the premiere. John must be misinformed because I've seen it multiple times, and I love it every single time. It's, I think, going to be a really inspiring moment across the nation for when people get to see this and take away some really incredible life lessons.
Well, I'll tell you, when I saw it, I was so moved. And it was so unexpected. We're bombarded these days with stories through not only movie releases but screenings and everything that's available online. And stories. They sort of they kind of blend together at times. It's like, oh my goodness. I mean, I must spend 30 minutes a night looking for something on Netflix. But when I saw the movie, number one, not only did it move me, but number two, I thought, this is what a movie's supposed to do to you when you go to a theater. I mean, I really felt something that I haven't felt in a long time with this picture.
There's a scene near the end when Joel, who is now a pretty fully baked version of himself as John O'Leary, he's a speaker now. He's more comfortable in who he is, how God is using his story in mighty ways that he never expected after getting burned, that he never saw for himself when he was a young person, addicted and struggling in his own life. But now he's understanding the gift of his life, and he's sharing that with an audience. And he says to the audience gathered, you get one life. Make yours matter. And part of our hope is when people leave this film, they're not thinking Joel Courtney did a great job as John O'Leary. They're not thinking that Jack Buck was an incredible human being and a phenomenal broadcaster and portrayed brilliantly by William H. Macy. We hope they know that they get one life and they get an opportunity each day and within each moment of those days to make it matter. So that like you felt is what we hope others will walk out of that theater with as well.
John, let's talk about this story for just a second, because this is your story. This is something that happened to you, happened to your family, happened to so many folks around you, and it's something that was totally unexpected. And folks all the time have things happen to them that are totally unexpected. And I just want you to speak into that a minute about how something that was so unexpected has now turned into something so beautiful.
The beautiful thing about your question is we could go in a million directions. Are we talking about a kid getting blown up as being so unexpected? A kid coming into the emergency room with 0% chance of surviving, somehow pulling through, being so unexpected. A Hall of Fame radio announcer hearing a whisper that a kid was dying. A kid he'd never met and had no business visiting, but for whatever reason, Jack Buck goes out and pays a visit, encourages that little guy, is told by the staff the kid's going to die, but then he goes back again day after day after day, being so unexpected. A chance recovery, the ability to learn how to move your hands again without fingers and pick up a fork again and play the piano again. Eventually take the hand of a girl who sees beauty in your brokenness, being so unexpected. So the whole story is radically unexpected. None of us who lived it saw any of it as a potential going through it. And yet here it is. It's come to pass. And now, through the abilities of Joel and others who are part of the film, this somewhat ordinary family story of tragedy redeemed is being portrayed through our friends at Sony in theaters around the country and around the world. It is so unexpected. And final thing I'll say is, this isn't my story. The only reason I could do an interview like this or any interview is because I recognize it's not about me. None of it. This is God using ordinary people to fulfill their perfect purposes in his perfect time. And the result of that ultimately in the film, when those of you who go out and check it out, is John figures out who he is and whose he is. But more than that, when we say yes to his will, we figure out who we are and what we can do in our lives going forward.
And Joel, what was it that attracted you to play John?
It's been a goal of mine to just play devilishly handsome men. It's been a goal of mine to
More.
John's story struck me immediately when I saw the sports. What was it, John? It was the
Major League Baseball did
Major League Baseball. That's right. So I was sent that video by my manager, and I watched it, and I immediately had this reaction to it of the story has to be told. I hope I'm the right guy, and I'd love to keep talking about what it would be to move forward and to take part of this film. And my manager has a lot of friends in St. Louis. And so she sent this to me and said, I think you're perfect for this. Take a look. We'll talk tomorrow. And that was 9 p.m. Like, my manager doesn't call me at 9 p.m. That's like wildly late out of the ordinary for sure. And so when I took her call, I knew it was special, and she was right. It was from the very get-go. And I think, John, it was before filming, you told me this: you're not the hero of this story. It's everyone else around you that is your hero. And that has stuck with me every day since filming. And the desire to bring this uplifting, encouraging story where, I mean, John is kind of my hero, whether or not he's the hero of this story. The takeaways that John has learned from his life have made me a better man. I've read his book, like, I can't even tell you how many times. It was an honor to come on board, and from the very get-go, I had that gut connection to it that I knew I wanted to chase down.
Well, you did a fantastic job, and just going to ask you, when you're playing someone who basically is looking over your shoulder, so to speak, what kind of pressure does that put on you, and what kind of responsibility do you feel?
I mean, there's definitely a responsibility. John, in terms of pressure, was very low pressure. I've played real, true characters, real life people twice now. And both times I've had incredible times doing it. I've never felt the pressure to, do something that like, John never came up to me and was like, hey, I've got an idea. You should try something. He was extremely uplifting, encouraging, selfless, even. If there was ever anything that I wanted to talk about, he was an open door to me, and still is today. He's been an incredible friend. But on set, it was so nice having John around. I think there could be, people out there that would be a little less pleasant to act as their real life person coming in over the shoulder. But John was terrific and helpful, and, like I said, selfless. It was just such a good time on set.
So John, as you watched Joel portray you in this film, not so much during filming, but when you actually saw the end result, what kind of feelings, what kind of how did you process that?
Yeah. Mostly just sadness, because I realize I'm so highly replaceable. Joel Courtney became John O'Leary, man. It was the strangest thing. He walked like me. His mannerisms were like me. He bowled like me. He shot pool like me and drank like me, danced with girls like me, and sounded like me. In fact, there's a scene at the very end of the film where Joel says, the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. So Sony has taken that line and gone with it through social media. And all my friends who hear that think that's me. So Joel became John O'Leary. And for a guy I'm from the Midwest, man. I grew up in a family of 6, and you fought for the scraps a little bit sometimes, and we were trained up to be faithful and humble. I never felt worthy of having a film about my life, and certainly never felt worthy of a guy who's as accomplished as Joel portray that person. But Joel did it with such sweetness, and such faithfulness, and such excellence that when I watch the film, I'm just moved. Like, for us, this film matters, but it's a legacy piece too, because my life isn't about me. And if that's true, the film is not about me. And Joel it was like a master stroke, man. He just did a phenomenal job threading that needle, doing the role as he would see it, but also bringing in a little bit of the O'Leary energy into it, and played it perfectly.
O'Leary energy. I love that.
So let's talk about share about your journey of overcoming insecurities with unconditional love. Your father and your wife Beth were both portrayed as very instrumental in the movie.
Yeah, when I blew up that can of gasoline in my garage growing up, and when I accidentally burned down my parents' house, and when I burned myself in the process, I was less worried into the emergency room as they took me about my recovery and my life, and far more concerned about my father's reaction to what I did. I not only inflicted these wounds on myself accidentally, but I burnt down the family house. And I knew my dad would be mad. And to be honest, I knew I earned it this time. And I hear his voice down the hall yelling at some poor nurse, "Where is my boy, John? Where's my boy, John?" And one of these nurses does me no favor. She brings him back into the room, pulls back the curtain. She should have called the police. She brings him in. And I remember as my dad looks up at me and I look at him, I think, he's going to kill me. He's going to absolutely kill me. And I shut my eyes, and then I hear my father's voice say, "John, look at me when I'm talking to you." And then he followed with these words: "I have never been so proud of anyone in my entire life. And today I'm just glad to be your dad." And then my incredible father said, "I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it." That unconditional love on day one did not make the 5.5 months in hospital easy. I don't know what would after being burned, but I think that unconditional love made the journey possible.
So let's talk a minute about your minute about your dad, and about your journey with him, and how he helped you go from pain to purpose.
Yeah, there was a moment, and it's not in the film, but it's in my life, and it's tattooed on my heart, where I'm about to go back to grade school. I'm 10 years old now. I'm in a wheelchair still. I'm missing my fingers, and I'm missing my friends, and I'm missing my old life. And I keep asking my dad, "Why me? Why did this terrible thing happen to me? Why will I never be accepted again for being fully capable? Why me? Why would God allow this thing to happen, Dad? Why me?" And my sweet dad shut the bedroom door. I remember this distinctly, walks back over to me, kneels in front of me, holds me at my hips, looks me in the eyes, and says, "John, darn it, why not you? This terrible thing has happened, and if you want to be a victim to it for the rest of your life, have at it. No one will ever blame you for that. You've been through the worst." And then he said, "Or you can use it for good. You can step into every room. We'll roll you in now, but maybe one day you'll walk in, and everybody will look up to you at who you are, all you've overcome, and how God is using your story today." And then he said to me, "John, victim or victor, your choice, not mine." My dad leaned forward, kissed my forehead, stood up, walked out of that room. And it is a conversation that shaped not only a 10-year-old's life, I'm telling you, but here I am, 48. I lost my father a couple months back. My dad is still speaking to me today in those words: victim or victor, your choice, not mine.
John, you had the opportunity to as I recall, have a screening a while back when the film was finished, I believe, and you got to invite your father, who has since passed. Tell me about that, and tell me about his reaction to the film, and seeing Joel portray you in the film.
So what are you going for tears? Is that what we're trying to do right now? I appreciate that effort. So here's in a snapshot, my father is my hero. For those of you who check out the film, you'll recognize what masculine love looks like in action at every step along the way from John's dad. It's why I told Joel he's not the hero, because he's not. Joel did a great job, but he's not the hero. One of the heroes is my dad. And in my life, my dad is my hero. I just look up to him so much. I looked up to him when he was on top of the world, successful, and I looked up to him when after Parkinson's disease and 2 house fires and the loss of employment and the loss of speech. So by the end of my father's life, he had so little going for him, seemingly, and yet he was filled with so much joy. So in early May, one of our clients wanted to buy 3,000 tickets to the film, but they wanted to watch it first. So we filmed and we brought him to a movie theater. And right before I walked in, I called my mom and dad and said, hey guys, we're going to show the film. Do you want to see it with me? We'll dim the lights. I'll start playing it for the client, but then I'll sneak you guys in. And they're like, yes. So my mom goes, we get dad into the wheelchair, roll him in. He sits next to me. He holds my hand the entire time, which is, to hold your dad's hand. It means a lot more once they're gone than when they're present. That's all I'll say on that one. Like, I had no idea my dad was going to die soon, but it didn't mean that much to me that day. It means an awful lot to me right now. When the film ended and the people in the audience were clapping, I leaned over to my dad and said, Dad, what do you think about your movie? And my father, who is essentially nonverbal after 3 decades with Parkinson's, says, what a gift. What a gift. We roll him out to the car, belt him in. Mom drives off. About a day later, he comes down with a cough. About a week later, he ends up in his bed, and he never returns from that. So my father passes away. The last words I ever heard my father say to me, what a gift. And he said that, I think, not as a review of Joel Courtney's work. I don't think he said it as a review necessarily of Soul on Fire. It was for him a life review. And this life for him, it's been so hard, man. I mean, he dealt with everything twice. And yet he did it with such grace and dignity and joy, and recognized at the end of the film and at the end of his life, what a gift. So part of my hope in the way you asked that question, and hopefully the way I answered it, when people leave the theater, they recognize life will not go the way they expect most days. But that does not mean that it cannot be good, and they can't see God working through it, and they can't recognize in this moment it is a gift.
I want to ask you about the impact that one person can have, whether it was the nurse who was with you in the hospital, or the impact of Jack Buck, or the scout mom who invited you to speak. And I want you to speak to those people out there, those individuals who just, they haven't quite realized the impact that they individually can have.
Mm. Well, you just kind of answered your question, even in the way you asked it. You're talking about one of the greatest baseball broadcasters of all time, a guy who was in 7 Hall of Fames, and before that earned a Purple Heart in the Battle of the Bulge. So a mighty success story right there. And then you tethered that to a guy, a nurse who worked in a hospital. And then the third person you talked about was a den mom. She was a single mom, a little girl she was raising up. And you tethered them all together as if each one of them is equal in little John O'Leary's recovery. And the reality is, David, you're right. Every one of those hands that stepped into my life made a profound impact, not only in who I was back then, but even how I show up today. And if that's true in my story, and it is, and if it's true in your story, David, and we know it is, it's true in the stories of everybody out there right now listening to our conversation, that their work, their life, their presence, their mission matters. And I think our call then forward is just to act like it. It's not to make excuses. It's not to play small. It's to recognize how big our God is and then say yes to his will.
There's a, you could look at a film like this to say, wow, how can you make a film about a kid that burns down the family house? Right? But it's not really a film about a kid burning down the family house. Tell us, at the core of this story, and it's a very redemptive story, tell us why folks should run to the theater and see this movie.
It is a story of redemption. It's a story of finding purpose out of pain. And who's unfamiliar with pain in this world? Everyone has their own. There's a saying, it's the worst thing you've ever been through is the worst thing that you've ever been through. Whether it's minor in comparison to someone else's pain, but I don't want to get into, the comparison of pain. It's a heavy and it's a dark place to be in. And I think that there's a lot of people experiencing a lot of hardship and pain nowadays. And before us sits a man who, with the help of the community around him, his family, he found purpose in pain. John took lemons and made the most incredible lemonade. I mean, it's a cheesy quote, but there is such beauty in the lessons that John has learned from all of the people around him, from Jack Buck, from his dad, from his mom, from Nurse Roy, friends in college, Beth becoming his wife. Like, there are so many incredible lessons that John has lived, and maybe things you've learned the hard way. And people can go and see this movie and be taken into a world of pain, and I think find themselves in it, and from that find purpose. And I think that's why people should run to the theaters, because I've seen it a couple times and I'm going back. I'm excited to watch it.
Well, speaking to that, and thank you for that, Joel, but John, speaking to that, you've said before that pain can be a powerful teacher. How has pain impacted you, and how has it shaped your perspective on your faith?
Well, undoubtedly, pain pushes back pride. When you live a pain-free life, you are at risk also of thinking that life is all about you. And when you recognize that there can be a gift within the pain, you recognize a couple things. Number one is it is not about you. It's ultimately what you can do for those around you. And secondly, it tethers you to their stories. One of the most beautiful things that happens to me, whether it's in the back of a film, so we've been showing this film all around the country, and it's about to come out in a big way around the country and around the world. But afterwards, people come up, they shake my hand. I have no fingers on either hand. They shake my hand, they hug me, and then they say, John, it's not like your story, but, and then they share. And they share the bipolar diagnosis, the cancer diagnosis, the bankruptcy, the abuse they face as a child, the divorce they're wrestling with right now, the difficulty they face professionally, whatever it is. There's a spiritual writer named Henry Nouwen who wrote, what is most private and personal is most universal and sacred. So the very thing you wish the world would not know about you is actually the very thing that connects the world to you. So the more you tell them and show them and love them for the brokenness and the beauty of your story, the more they will also recognize the brokenness is also leading to beauty and their story. We live in such a divided time, and this film draws us together. You can't figure out if the hero is a Republican or a Democrat, a black person or a white person, a female or a male. All of the family, the entire body comes together around this little boy. They love him when he did not really deserve it. They guided him forward. And by the very, very, very end of the film, John begins to recognize that there is beauty in his life. It's time to move forward with it. And that's a pretty good reckoning in your life. So my hope is when people leave this, they recognize that their past doesn't have to define how they show up today and what they're able to do with their tomorrows.
William H. Macy plays Jack Buck in this film, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the impact that one of the most iconic sportscasters of all time played, the role that he played in your life. Tell me about that story.
So, I mean, first of all, Joel Courtney plays John O'Leary. In what world does that happen? John Corbett plays my dad. How does that happen? And then we got some guy named William H. Macy playing Jack Buck. Like, how does any of this happen? And of course, it's just God's will, man. It's God's hand in all of this. So Bill Macy, who is just a great guy, steps into the role of Jack Buck. And many of your listeners and viewers may know that name, or they may know the name Joe Buck, Super Bowl broadcaster, World Series broadcaster, celebrity in and of his own right. And as great as Joe was, he and I will admit his dad was better. His dad was just this iconic broadcaster for 5 decades. And as incredible as he was at broadcasting, his real gift was loving people. This is what was a man who grew up in the Depression, served his country in World War II, picked up a Purple Heart in the Battle of the Bulge, came home, and never forgot what mattered in life. So even as he climbed, he was always for the least among us, always. And so Jack Buck was my hero as a kid. He was the one who broadcast St. Louis Cardinals baseball into my room each night. Never met the man. I don't think you always need to beat your hero, though, to recognize they're your hero. So Jack was my hero. I got burned on January 17th. Should have died that day. Barely made it into the evening. And by the late hours, my door opens up. Jack Buck walks in, sits down next to me. I never met him before live. And then he speaks this light into my darkness. My eyes are swollen shut. And Jack says, "Kid, wake up. Wake up. You are going to live. Keep fighting. John O'Leary Day at the ballpark will make it all worthwhile." And if that's what he did and that's all he did enough. But for those of you who saw the film, or Joel's read the book 6 different times, that's just the start, man. He's told on the way out that the little boy's going to die. And in spite of that diagnosis, that prognosis, Jack Buck has the audacity, the faith, the love to come back into a stranger's life again and do it again and do it again and do it again and keep serving. And the ripple effect of that is not just for me and my family. Everyone who saw a famous celebrity walk into a burn ward was better off because of his presence. So Jack Buck changed countless lives in his days, and I'm just one of them.
Joel, you've now played a couple of fantastic roles that have really appealed to so many folks, especially in the faith lane. But this is really a film that is far-reaching. I mean, this is a film for everyone, but it obviously has a strong faith element in it. When you decide to do a picture like this, what is it that resonates with you? What is it that convinces you that this is just something that you've got to do?
You know, it's a little vague and hard to put my finger exactly on the pulse of it. It really comes down to reading a script and just finding a connection with it. It's happened multiple different times where I just know that I have to be a part of this in some way. And it immediately just ignites this passion to tell this story and get it out to as many people as can see it. And beyond that, I don't know that I have much of an answer. We had a great script, so that's terrific. John's story is it's contagious, like the joy that he lives, the passion for life, the complete rejection of passivity, I think is something that spoke to me immediately. Like I said, my manager called me at like 9 p.m. I read it that night. I didn't go to bed. I didn't go to bed before midnight that night, and I couldn't fall asleep because I was just thinking about it. And I was really looking forward to calling my manager back and saying, I got to be a part of this. I don't know that there's one thing that, I'll read and be like, yeah, it's good. I could be a part of this, but there's been a few, and they've been the honor of my career to be a part of, that I've just fully, completely connected with and surrendered myself to be in service to it as much as I can be. And Soul on Fire is absolutely one of those.
We have our audience is going to obviously be very familiar with you because we really got behind Jesus Revolution.
And thank you.
And so now, what is it with you now? Now you're like the leading. What is it with you in love stories?
Love stories. The greatest love story that was ever told was Jesus on the cross, and the second best is mine with my wife. Love stories are a difficult thing. I kind of just I get cast as the leading man. I get cast as the love interest. It's not simple. It's not taken on lightly. I love my job. It's an absolute blessing, and I am extremely fulfilled by it. I'm passionate about it. I love getting to, go to work and tell stories. And the truth of this story is part of it is a love story. It's John's and Beth's, and they are epic together. They are they are awesome. And so, yeah, part of this film is a love story, and Macy McLean is terrific, and she did a great job as Beth. And having Beth and John on set in St. Louis while we're filming, like, they were so helpful. We got to know them both. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah, they really are the real deal, aren't they? I mean, I was, it's
They are.
it's rare that you get the actual meet, not only the real life hero, but his spouse. But she really, after meeting them, after seeing the movie, I thought, wow, this is the real deal. This is not some made up story.
No, Beth is just as, if not more incredible than John says in his book. And he is absolutely in love with her and adores her. And she has stood by him through so many things. And she has been the picture of, like, beauty, support, encouragement, uplifting, and she's hysterical. They are hysterical together, and very much the real deal, like you said. They're awesome together. They just make me laugh so much. The two of them, they're so good.
So let's sort of talk about the cast a little bit, the amazing cast. And I want you to talk about it as the leading man in the picture. Tell me about this ensemble cast, this amazing cast that was put together, and what was like to work around them.
I mean, the people in this film, the actors, they are rock stars. Um, William Macy has been a guy that he's a legend. He's crossed that threshold a long time ago. I almost got to work with him several years ago. This is actually a funny story. I got to tell him this. He was directing a film, and I got to go to his house in LA. We sat down and we talked about it, and I didn't get it. But one of the things that he was encouraging me to do was to change acting classes, because the way I was originally talking about my class was from a place where I was studying as a kid, and I kind of had, like, kid gloves on the way I was dealing with my work. And he's like, you should maybe change your class, and it will maybe change the way you look at the work to the level that William is looking at the work. He was encouraging me to step up a little bit, and it was friendly. It wasn't like, nah, not this guy, he's too dumb. Like, he's not ready yet. It wasn't that at all. It was encouragement. And I did, and my new class completely changed my life. So I got to share that story with William, and it was a super cool full circle moment. John Corbett is maybe one of the funniest people I've ever met. Um, he has such an incredible heart, and his portrayal of Denny in this film just, um, having known Denny in person and gotten to meet him multiple times, it really just is so profound. It's so powerful. Maisie McClain absolutely crushes it as Beth. Like I said, she really brought out the heart and the supportiveness and the strength that Beth has. Devon Franklin, good friend of mine from Jesus Revolution. I didn't know that he was going to be part of the film until we had a Deadline article come out and his picture was right next to mine. And so I screenshotted it. I texted it to him immediately. And I said, "Well, I guess we're back, brother." Absolutely incredible as Nurse Roy. I was so honored to share the screen with him again.
So John, when you go out and speak, and I know you speak over 100 dates a year normally. I suppose this year you're focused a lot on the movie as well. I don't know how you're doing all this, but you're doing it. Um, what is it that audiences really? What do you want them to really take away from your speeches? Because you've had a couple of New York Times best-selling books. You're on the road, just encouraging people all the time. What is it that really resonates with the audience? What is it that you want to get across to them, and what seems to really take hold with them?
Well, it's so strange. You spoke to it a bit in one of the questions you asked Joel. You said, "Man, it's really not a fire story, is it?" And then you went on from there and elaborated. But the audience typically comes in and they read like the bio and it's 2 sentences like burned terribly, and they're assuming one thing. And then they see John O'Leary walk on the stage, and I walk a little bent over. My arms are a little bit locked in some spaces, and my fingers are amputated. So I think the very first thing they believe is, poor guy got burned. We know what to expect. And by the end of it, they recognize a couple things. Number one is that story they just heard had nothing at all to do with some kid getting burned, not even close. So that's number one. It's not a fire story. Even though the book is called On Fire and the film is called Soul on Fire and our email campaign is called Spark, the reality is none of it has anything to do with fire. So that's interesting. Secondly, they come in thinking that he's going to rant and rave about how great he is and how tough the recovery was and what maybe he learned along the way. And then they see this message that, if it's done right, is so humbly delivered about the others, about God's hand, about people showing up, about the least among us making a difference, about how, yeah, it was a Hall of Fame radio announcer, and equally important, maybe more so, the janitor. And let me introduce you to a real hero. Her name is Beth. She sees beauty in the scars. And look at these kids, man, what they're teaching me about life. And then you got this guy who can't talk at the end of his life. His name is Denny O'Leary. He's my dad. He teaches me how to love and live with joy, even if it's hard. And now I get to bring this forward. And at his funeral, a man who went a decade without speaking. The man had more than 1,000 people gathered. Because this man was present. He was lit up. He was joyful. Joel, it's a word you use a bunch. Man, my dad was joy. In a marketplace I love is to live in despair. And so I try to teach people, in the midst of struggle, there's reason for hope. And in a society, last year where 1.3 million Americans attempted suicide, if the work we do on the stage or on the screen or in shows like yours reminds people to step forward, keep stepping forward, watch what happens, lean into those around you, trust God's plan. If that keeps you moving forward, then all of the work, all the days on the road, all the effort is not in vain. So I want to remind people that they have royal blood coursing through their veins. What they do, what they say matters. Act like it.
Amen. Amen. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and I can't wait to see the film in theaters and take a lot of my friends to see it. And then again, I'm going to tell you, I love movies, but there's a lot at home now on Netflix and on Prime and everything else, and you got to really want to go see a movie. And this is one of those movies I guarantee is worth going to the theater, even though you got to buy that $15 popcorn. This is one of those movies that it's actually worth going to the theater. And I don't say that a lot. I don't say that a lot, but I was so moved by the film. Joel, your performance was amazing. The whole cast was just amazing. And John, your story is just one that needs to be told, and the theater is the place to tell it. So congratulations to you both. And we look forward to seeing it in the theaters here in just a few days.
Thank you, David.
Amazing. Thank you, David.
Thanks again, Joel and John. Again, head on over to soulonfiremovie.com to get your tickets to see this movie. And it's in theaters October the 10th. And I tell you, I loved it. I saw it a while back in a sneak preview, and I just absolutely loved it. And these two gentlemen, they're the best. And I would encourage you to take your whole family to see it. This is a family movie. So get your tickets today at soulonfiremovie.com. This has been CIA Contagious Influencers of America from the producers of Keep the Faith, the #1 syndicated faith-based show in all of America, and we're all over Canada too. So thank you wherever you happen to be listening to us. Thank you for making the show #1, and thank you for making this podcast so very successful, especially on the iHeart platform. And if you'd like to see all of our podcasts that we've done, you can check out contagiouslinfluencers.com, where we have close to 300 episodes now. So you can check it out over there. And of course, we have a YouTube channel at the KeepTheFaith.com YouTube channel. So check that out. And wherever you find these things, please do comment. Please do give us a 5-star rating. That would be really cool. And of course, our website is at KeepTheFaith.com, where we've got all kinds of goodies streaming for you 24/7. That's at KeepTheFaith.com. Until next time, I'm David Sams. Go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living it in black and white. I'll see you next time.